Hi, my name's Ethan Lawrence.
This is Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage.
Hi, I'm Scotty Wartooth.
Hi, my name's Sean Smith.
Hi, my name is Desha Tiva.
This is Ryan McCombs from the band Soil.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is the Raging Cajun Lash LaRue.
My name's Steve. I play bass in Lowlives. You're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast with Todd and Jamie. They're fucking awesome.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. And these right here are the Chronicles of Lowlives. It is I, Jamie, and joining me, as always, is this handsome fella right here.
Hi guys, it's Tom. We're really sorry there's no show this week. Hit it!
Ladies and gentlemen, this week we are bringing you a very special guest. This week's guest is a member of an incredible band who are currently celebrating the release of their debut record, Freaking Out. Boys and girls, I know that you don't care what I think, but I'm not a liar when I tell you that today we are joined by Steve Lucarelli as we bring you the Chronicles of Lowlives.
Fuck's sake.
Well, I won't be freaking out, but it's actually Lucarelli.
Say again, sorry?
Lucarelli.
C threw me off. I do apologise.
No, it's the fact it's just maybe especially not Italian. Isn't it Italian surname?
It is. I'm only a quarter Italian, but I get the full last name.
Yeah.
I can't help it. Sometimes I talk with my hands, and that's that's I guess a family heirloom passed down. But I understand it. If you see two C's, that's a ch. If it's CE, it's a s. But if it's a CA, it's a ka.
Love it. I can imagine. I should have you to go on stage, Steve, and just be like, "Hey, how we doing? What's going on?"
So, fun story. My wife has never seen me without a beard ever. I've had a beard since before we met, and basically I've bargained a pair of dark blue Carhartt overalls for me to be Mario for Halloween this year. So there's a chance that it'll just be this for a minute.
Incredible.
He did the accent.
It's me, yeah. I mean, I'm a 90s, right? This is, we're full circle. I mean, I had the original, Nintendo that, you had to blow into whenever it didn't work. And for some reason, that fixed it. But
what I always loved about those, it says on the back, "Do not blow into the cartridge."
But that's the only thing that works.
Exactly.
Phenomenal. That impression was great, by the way. So I can't wait. Please put that on social media or put it somewhere for us all to enjoy.
I do have a fairly large wrench that I'll just carry around. And
Steve, you've already won Halloween. It's not even here yet. You've already won.
I usually have a hard time figuring. I love Halloween so much. It's my favorite holiday. And every year I get the worst case of Halloween blue balls where I'm like, I can't think of the best thing to do. And then before I know it, it's within the week and I've blown it. And then I have to, I don't know, be a vampire again for the 100th time.
Yeah. Or a cat, weirdly. Or a cat, weirdly, because everyone becomes a cat for some reason.
I've never been a cat, but I mean, I guess I could put that in my back pocket.
Well, what's the most common Halloween? Witch, vampire, cat. What else is like a real common thing to do on Halloween?
So in the past few years, Harley Quinn.
It's that, but then it's all the slutty versions of everything else.
Yes.
And, yeah. Like nurse outfits, but put a little blood down your mouth and then you saw it.
Yep, vampire nurse.
We should probably crack on a little bit here, But how's your personal Monday going so far?
Fantastic! I get to talk with you guys. Today is a good day.
Yeah. Stop it, you. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
I'm just trying to stay cozy, man. I'm here for it.
Love it. So Before we talk all things low lives, we want to learn a bit more about yourself, sir. So take us right back to the days of your youth. What did you want to be when you were growing up in your more formative years? Has it always been music for you or something else?
It's always been music, yeah. My dad is a jazz musician, and so I grew up with him practicing every night and just being in that space. Obviously, I don't play jazz. I've played jazz, but it's been a long time. But yeah, I can remember in fifth grade, they always have you when you're 16 and you're like, when I'm 16, I'm going to be a rock star, not knowing, you're not able to think of what that actually means as to put it to practice. You're just like, that's what I want to do. Like ever since I had my sister's old Walkman. So for anyone who's not born in this century, Walkman is a radio with headphones, and it's just a radio. It doesn't it was before the tapes. I had my sister's old one, and so I was tuning into rock radio when I was fourth, fifth grade, maybe even before that. And so it's always been that. Like even like I remember listening to the radio the day Kurt Cobain died. Like wow. I was obsessed with it then. And I was very young. I was probably like 6 years old. So I mean, as soon as I could be into it, I've been into it. And younger me, I think, would be pretty impressed with how far I've come. So I've always wanted to do that. And I wanted to play guitar originally, and then I got persuaded to play bass. And I've always played bass. I can dabble on guitar, but I think in bass, so it's a different mechanism. Whereas it's usually like, okay, well, this guy already has a guitar and this guy already has a guitar. So, if you want to be in a band, you got to be the bass player. Like, it's different for me. I've never been that guy. So I feel awkward when I pick up a guitar, but when I pick up a bass, I'm like, okay, this is the language that I speak. So yeah,
I feel that massively. I used to play bass, and whenever I picked up a guitar, I was like, I just don't know what I'm doing here. What's going on? But
yeah, I got like big stupid hands, and so they work better with larger strings.
Makes sense. I love it. Absolutely love it. So were you influenced heavily by your parents? They say dad was a jazz musician. Like, what about your mum? What did she listen to when she like when you were growing up?
Soft rock, like tons of 80s soft rock. So there's a chapter in my brain that knows every Celine Dion song by heart. I don't visit the chapter very often, unfortunately, but we always had music, something, and my uncles. So my dad and my uncle were jazz music. My dad still plays. My uncle's passed, but they played together since they were like 12 years old, and so they had a whole career. My dad was a music teacher, actually, so it was just kind of like all around me constantly growing up. And so even now, like at home, our house is never quiet. I'm always putting a record on, or streaming music, new things that I find. So yeah, music's just always been that thing. But funny enough, when it came time to go to college, I was planning on becoming a music teacher. That was, following in the family footsteps, and my dad was like, absolutely not. You will not go to school for music. Find anything else. So I went for a year for creative writing, and I burned out so hard that my first band was called Once Nothing. That was, we put out a couple EPs and a full length, but they were my local band in Pittsburgh. And so they had some member changes and they asked me if I wanted to play bass. And so I literally dropped out of college to go on tour. And basically my parents were like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And I had that I was never I was never a real rebellious kid. I mean, in my mind with the music that I listened to, but it never really came out. Nice person, do your homework, whatever. But my coming of age was when I was like, no, I'm going to do this. This is my dream. And I hope that you support me, because if you don't, you'll never see me again. And that was a really intense sort of I still, like, to this day, I don't regret it, but that was a really difficult thing for them. And it's drawn like a hard boundary on me doing this however I can do it for as long as I can do it. So that's my personal, that's what got me into touring, got me into being, where I'm at today is very much, having to be like, hey, yeah, I'm not going to follow your path, unfortunately for you. Sorry.
Wow. I just quickly going back to the Celine Dion thing. I'd love it if he just dropped a track with hints of like influence from her. That'd be absolutely unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? It's like just little hints, not like a full on. I mean, if you did a whole real Celine Dion ballad, that'd be unbelievable. But I can't see that happening somehow. So,
you know what? On the next record, you might find something somewhere.
Steve, don't tease. Don't tease my ass.
We do like to have little fun nuggets here and there. So I don't know. I can't say that it won't be, but you'll have to sift through the comments on the next one to see.
Yeah.
Although she's having it, just like everything from the 90s. I think for a while there, you couldn't be less cool than Nickelback and Celine Dion. And I feel like at this point, they're having like this epic revival because Celine Dion did that song for Deadpool 2, and now everyone.
Oh,
yeah, I can't. Something with ashes. It's like I can't. You can find it, but it's a fantastic song. But they were genius when they did it. They made it the focal point of the climax of the movie, and it's like let faith come out of ashes or something like that. And now Celine Dion is back being cool again. And so is Nickelback, and all of these bands and things really is cyclical, where it's coming back, where people are not ironically listening, but being interested in.
Nickelback never died for me. Never.
You can't
Sorry,
hold you can't hold a good Canadian down. That's what the proof of it. That's what the message is. Yeah.
You know what it is? Everyone's having documentaries come out.
Oh, yes. Sorry, didn't interrupt you. Carry on.
Yeah. They've got a Nickelback documentary, and much like Motley Crue, people are rediscovering the way that things used to be, and so there is a throwback revival that, hey, I'm here for it. So I was there for it, but now I'm here for it again.
So going back to the bands that you were influenced by, obviously you can pick up a multiple of sort of different sounds in Lowlives. What were the bands that inspired you when you were first learning to play the bass?
Yeah, I mean, Rancid was a huge one. I mean, Matt Freeman from Rancid is one of the best bass players of all time. I mean, I know everyone talks about Beat It to Death, but it literally is that good. The bass solo in Maxwell Murder is, when I first heard it, I was like, there's no way that guy is playing like that. Like, absolutely not. It's not even possible. It is possible. But, I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Primus, The Clash. The Clash is probably the biggest influence that I have. They're just, you know, the scope of musicianship. I mean, I could put some Clash songs on. My dad would be like, "Oh, this isn't so bad," because they had that like jazz influence. Joe Strummer had that classical education that made it seem like he could pull that. He did pull that stuff off, and also use like broken grammar to be a man of the people with an above average ability to play music. And that sort of dichotomy I always loved about that band. And so you had like this deep reggae influence, but also, London Calling as a song, and the bass part in that just always blew my mind. I mean, so that when I started to learn the songs, those were the influences. And then obviously bands like Primus, like Les Claypool is insane, and every bass player ever has been like, how does he do that? And I still watch Primus stuff, and I'm like, knowing all that I know now about being a professional musician, I still go, how the fuck does he do that? Like some, primeval bass angel wizard. I don't know.
That's a great description of Les Claypool if I ever have heard one.
I don't know how, like, I watch stuff and I'm like, fucking hell, like that. I just, to be able to sing and do that and, perform, he's really something special. So, but all of those things, I was interested in that. And I think you kind of have to have that real obsession, especially to take things as far as I've taken them. It's being a musician in 2024 is incredibly difficult. So you have to have those initial years of just pure obsession to really wind up here, I think.
You are right. Like, we talk to a lot of musicians, and they say, it's not an easy business. You do this for the passion. Like, you do this because it's in you. You need to do this. It's not because you want to go out there and make money, because it's just not happening nowadays.
I mean, unfortunately, we haven't figured out how to fix the monetization of music.
No.
It's so interesting, 24 years after the fact, being like, yeah, Metallica was kind of right about the way that they were approaching the Napster thing. I think the way they did it was brash, and they seemed, especially Lars, I love Metallica, but that was a bad look for them. They could have approached that whole thing differently. But in terms of the music industry side of things, streaming is just not really a viable option for us now. And so, unless you're overloading servers, it's a lot harder to do that stuff. Whereas, like, even if you sold like, 2,000 CDs at $10 a pop, right? You're at least like, you're generating revenue that can be used to get a line of credit for the band or whatever. And 2,000 streams gets you what, like $1? Not even.
It's disgusting.
So I'm not here to complain about music finances. I'm just saying it is very much now more than ever strictly for that obsession and that love of doing it, because you're not going to get rich. I mean, I think Snoop Dogg said, he's like, how the fuck are you going to have 1 billion streams and not make $1 million? He's not wrong. That really is the way that it is. And so, like, knowing that, I feel like there's an appreciation for musicians that hasn't quite come in. Like, how much it takes for us to do this is really that, like, that drive inside to, you know, it's a lot easier not to do it. Like, you just get a job and work your life, but we can't. And I think every member of Lowlives, we all share in that same sort of collective insanity that's like, you know what? We are all miserable people if we don't do this. We all need this because it's who we are. And it's not always convenient to, you know, put your own life on hold, go somewhere for 2 weeks, and, you know, come back with battle scars or come back in the hole or whatever. Like, it really is what's in us that drives us to do it. And if we didn't have that obsession, you know, it's a hard time for music. So we're not getting it, we're not in it to be rich, because we're not.
Yeah, it's horrible, and you know, something does need to change. Like you say, so it really does need to change.
I'd had this thought, you know, I lived in Hollywood for a long time, and when all the actors and everyone was striking, I was like, musicians should get in on this. I mean, the studios are, you know, they're controlling things. You've got the writer's strike and the actor's strike. Like, the musicians should also go on strike and try and gain back some of our rights. I mean, in Hollywood in particular, the union is very strong for like SAG-AFTRA, but the musicians union, you know, I'm sure someone out there will disagree with me, but my experience with the musicians union is they don't have enough to offer to really go to the table to advocate for musicians' rights against, you know, Spotify or Apple Music, all of which we're super grateful because a lot of people find out about us through that, but the streaming model doesn't lend itself to a real sense of commerce, which is really when you take your band out of the garage, you are now, you know, as much as we hate this, a product. Like, you are as good of a product as you are conveying. So like, the best products are the ones you don't even know that you're witnessing, right? Like, the artistry is solid, the recording is solid, but all of those things take time. And, you know, we can't go to Spotify and ask for an advance on our next album, even though they will happily list it, and they'll list it for a fraction of a penny per stream, you know. Whereas like the truth is that if you're an actor and you're well represented in the way that the streaming studios, they're producing a lot, they're keeping the studios fed, and the, you know, the writers and the actors, like Amazon is employing those people to create content that hasn't pulled over to the musicians yet. So Amazon and Apple and Spotify and Napster and Deezer and all of those, like, they're not giving advances to the artists to bring them more music. And so that's the element that I think is, it hasn't caught up. So, and the record labels fit in there in a different way, but the people who are consuming, you know, I know that the CEO of Spotify is worth $5 billion. Like,
Fuck.
yeah. He's worth like 3 or 4 billion more than Paul McCartney. And
Wow.
I don't know, is there something wrong with that? He's a tech guy. He made a tech program and it's successful, and I can't blame anyone for that. But at the same time, like, something needs to fix itself so that musicians aren't at great personal financial risk all the time. Because, you know, then like with COVID restrictions and all of this stuff, if something happens, you know, you're SOL, and it's just like, well, you're a musician, figure it out, or don't.
Oh, insane. It's crazy as fuck, man. I mean, yeah, something went wrong somewhere and no one did anything about it. And now we're like, how do we get here?
Yes,
What's happened on the way? Like,
it's true. I mean, I'm not like bitter about it. I think it's a thing that we need to solve, because music education and music as an expressive art form are very important to the world.
Yeah.
And that there's no reason why it shouldn't be a viable thing for everyone to make money and be healthy. And I hear no one talk about musician mental health. It's not a thing. Do you guys hear anything like that? Because I've
no.
We had talked to a label that unfortunately didn't work out, but they were looking to launch a business model where all the bands in that label were looked after mental health wise. And I thought that was a really unique sort of, it's a great idea. I mean, like, maybe it's antithetical to punk rock, because punk rock, at least traditionally, thrives when you're at your lowest.
I mean, you got a point.
So I don't know. I haven't really. I've thought about this many times, but it's an evolving thing. I'm not, like I said, I'm not bitter about the time that we are in music. It's just something that we need to collectively work out, because it can't go away, because this is like the world's oldest means of expression. Even if you go back to drums and drum circles, like, we need this. We need the interaction. So we just need to find out how it's not so devalued. Anyway, that's my rant.
No. And I did not expect this turn we were taking, Steve, to be honest with you. But
no, I love it.
It's
from Mario to music. I mean, you never know with me, and that's the point.
And that's why we're all here today. But a question I like to ask, and I know you probably get this a fucking lot, but I'm always intrigued by what came before. Your name, Lowlives. How did you come up with it? But what did you have beforehand? Because I always like we were called Bread Basket or something. Do you know what I mean? Like,
to be honest with you, Lowlives was already the name whenever I came into it.
Okay.
Yeah, Lee had that name, I guess, just set aside for a while. And so basically, I've known Luke for a really long time. And he had gotten out of the music industry for a bit. But we'd kind of always had each other's backs, like, oh, I heard of this gig. Because for a while, we were both hired guns for a very long time. And so we'd always try and throw each other anything we could. And a fun Luke story is that he played his first show for a few years with I had a shoegaze band. They're called Night Jacket. They're still active in LA. But it's a very quiet music. And we needed a drummer, and I got Luke to do, I think, 2 shows with Night Jacket, and we had him using brushes, not drumsticks, and he was still too loud. But so yeah, that would have been in 2015. I think end of 2015 is when we played some shows, and we'd always been toying with it. And so after Luke and Lee met, he called me one day. He's like, hey, I got this band. It's called Lowlives. It's a thing. Like, I want you in it. And so it was right after we had my son and I was on hiatus from playing with the Ataris, and I was kind of like, well, yeah, like I'll take any opportunity to come jam with you. I didn't know Lee at that point, but I mean, we had met at the bar years or like before he was like with the Defiled, and I didn't know who he was. I was like, that guy looks cool. And so when we got to the jam room, it was like, oh, hey, I know you. Like, oh yeah, I know you too. And that was kind of like the birth of the band. So we've never not been Lowlives. It's through thick and thin, it's been the four of us, and that's kind of how it started.
That's amazing. I had the vision of you when you all saw each other. You did the whole Spider-Man meme where you were pointing at each other like, I know you.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you too. Like,
yeah, totally. Absolutely. I mean, LA is a huge place, but in the industries that you're in, it's really not that big. Everyone tends to know, or at least know someone who knows.
okay.
So, if you're at a cool bar, chances are you're at a cool bar with other cool people, and someone's going to know someone. And so that's like, oh, hey, I know you. And yeah, we've just been like, best friends ever since. So it's, for band formation, unfortunately, I can't say that we were, I can't think of anything, there's so many crazy band names, the Stupid Goonies or whatever. Nah, it wasn't.
Love it.
Love it. So I was doing my research before I was sitting down to talk to you, and it seems you guys came really close after a hastily arranged UK tour in 2018. What was the story here? Because it seems a bit mental.
Yeah. So here's the scene, right? We had been a band for about a year at that point, but we hadn't taking everything that we know about how the music industry works. I mean, there's collectively like 40 years experience or more in the industry. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to have enough songs written. We wanted to have the recording quality be good. We've got our sickle logo, we had our font and everything. And when it was finally time to play our first show, we played with Moose Blood at a sold out show in LA. And then we were kind of just like still easing into letting the cat out of the bag. And Luke was great friends with the guys from the Used, said, hey, would you mind letting us open for your show at the Observatory in Anaheim? I said, yeah, of course. There's no opener, you guys. And then, so that was our second show. Our third show, Bo Rochelle, who plays in Seosin, who does all of our recording, he was like, oh, you guys want to open for Seosin? Like, absolutely. So we had 3 sold out shows we launched the band on. And then we were like, oh, the Used is going on tour in Europe and the UK in February. Let's see if we can get that. Like, let's just see. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you guys. Like, this is amazing. So here's the scene. We're driving to our first date in Sweden. Pearl Jam is on the radio. Vibes are great. We're just, we've booked our van. We've got merch. We've rented all of our gear. We're hot and ready to go, right? First day it was supposed to be in Sweden. Luke gets a call from the tour manager. Music goes down, says, hey, okay, yeah, hangs up, tour's canceled. Like, what? And he's like, yeah, okay. So we pull off at a rest stop in Belgium, and it's not unlike the US. They sell beer in like at the side of a rest stop. And like, yeah, there's been some family stuff. Tour's canceled. They were supposed to come meet us tomorrow. So I went in to the gas station, like, I'm slamming a beer. I don't care. I need this right now. I'm so, because we've, like I was saying, like we leverage our own personal finances to do this. Like, and we're moving to the point where it is more financially viable for us to do this, but it's still based on our personal finances, especially at that point. We had no representation, done 3 shows, headed to Europe. So I'm trying to sort it out, and I'm slamming this beer. I'm like, I don't feel any more calm. And I look and I accidentally grabbed this 0,0 beer, like a non-alcoholic. Just, so we kind of went, okay, it's like Friday. The first show was going to be on Saturday. What do we have as our options to do? So we're like, well, no matter what, we have to go back to England. So we got on the ferry. We, 2 hours after getting off the ferry, get on the ferry. We're back, and we're just like, who do we call? What can we do? Because at the end of it, we were like, well, we think we get to do a BBC in studio session. So do we just like go home, or do we come back? Do we try and slug it out? What do we do? And so, unlike the US, it seems like in England and Europe, when the weekend hits, everyone's just like, cool, phone off. Like no one does much. Where in the US, it's very common to have access to everyone at all times, even on your days off. So we're like, cool, nothing's really going to get sorted until Monday. But we'll put in as many calls as we can. I mean, I'm reaching out to people that I barely know through Facebook that might know a promoter somewhere in the UK, just to try and find anything. And so Monday rolls around, and people were just like, yeah, sure, we'd love to add you to this show. And so we picked up, I think, like 7 shows in one day. We were like, whoa, okay. And then Tuesday rolls around, and we went from having an entire tour get canceled to having 14 days, no days off, and then 15 with the BBC being the last one. So, I mean, just like what an incredible punk rock way to pull a full tour out of nowhere. So yeah, I mean that's the story. And the routing wasn't great. It was like, Scotland, then I don't know, like Exeter, and then up to Manchester. I mean, it was just crisscrossing each other, but we did it. And it was I mean, the shows were hit or miss. We were just happy to have shows. And so that's kind of that scrappiness that we still have. Like, what's punk rock, right? Like, there's a genre attached to it, but it's also a mentality. And I think that we very clearly demonstrate that we're a punk band. If not genre alone, but like in ethos, like we do get the work done no matter what.
That is unreal. Absolutely unreal.
So, and a lot of those people we're still in our band universe. I mean, it's the more you play, the more people you meet, the more people come into your universe, and they stick around, or you're, especially now, like overloaded with information constantly. But we have tried our best to just show gratitude and show like appreciation for everyone that helped us out then, to still be able to come to the UK and do it, and have it not be this thing that just like, oh, that fizzled, that was a weird thing that happened, and then it's fizzled. Like, we're very much still front of mind with the people that helped us with that. And yeah, that's our story.
What a story. Like, That's got to be so heartwarming to you guys as well, especially like your fourth show ever has been just like on the spot, like shit, panic. Oh, we got a tour. There you go, sorted.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, but just like the pure like panic and devastation of like we have all of this merch made and we've prepaid the van for 2 weeks and what? That's I don't think a lot of people will thankfully ever experience any sort of panic like that because it's just like we're out here as like a bands, I don't care what you say, are business ventures. You hope to turn a profit, and if you don't need that profit to be millions of dollars, good on you, right? Not saying that like that's ever really the stated goal. The goal is just to play more music. That is the goal. It's not for me anyway. It's not like, oh, I want to make 6 figures playing music. It's just like I just want to be able to be a person and continue making more music. And so for us, we stick our necks out there, and to have that pure, just like devastating panic of like, holy shit, we're here and everything is completely falling apart.
That's it's an insane story. But like you say, like fair play to you guys as well, because a lot of people are going, let's just take the hit, let's just go home. I'm sure we can make something work when we get back. But no, you guys fucking stuck it out. We're like, we want shows. What can we do?
Yeah, I mean, but that's the punk rock element. I mean, my favorite shows are the ones where people are just like diving over each other, and it's like a big sea of people just all feeling all the feels to the music. And a lot of times those are really small shows, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, imagine I got to see Green Day play at this small venue in Austin years ago, and it was just like, oh man, because you don't really see bands like that do small shows where like everyone knows every word, and you're in a 200-person room and it's just freaking bananas and people are stage diving, and that whole show of humanity, like that's super cool. And so for us, we're just like, man, if this is if there's 13 people here or 1,300, you're getting the same energy from us. And that's that punk element where I can't turn it off.
And now you're about to go on tour with Alkaline Trio.
Yeah, I mean, life is fun.
And it's here. It's over here as well, which would be unbelievable.
Oh my god. Like, I saw Alkaline Trio and Thrice in Pittsburgh, I think in 2004, 2005, at a small venue. And that, I remember that show. It was an amazing show. Now to come full circle 20 years later and get to go on tour with them, it's, those are the times when I think back to when I'm 16, I'm going to be a rock star. And I'm like, I won't be at 16, but you're going to do
So I guess we should talk about it, because the end of May you released your debut album, Freaking Out. What's the reception been like to the record now that the dust has settled?
I mean, it's been overwhelmingly positive. I think one thing that's scary for artists is when you commit to a record, like, record kind of has two meanings, right? Is like, on one hand, it's the physical thing that you can hold, but it's also the record of who you were when you wrote those songs and who you know, what you were going through at the time that you wrote the songs. And I think that it's awesome to finally have it out, because now we can kind of move on from it, and continue the growth with it. And you never know. I mean, shit, like I always think about the way in which the music industry has changed now. Someone like Bruce Springsteen and his first album, was a commercial flop. I mean, in retrospect, it's a very important album and did end up becoming successful. But, nowadays, with the way that things go, you kind of really only get one true shot. And luckily for us, like, we don't care how many shots that we get, because it's not for anyone other than us, because we need this. So the success of the record isn't going to dictate whether the band continues. The band's going to continue because we need it to continue. So I guess what I'm saying is, in some ways, the success of the record is inconsequential to us moving forward. On the other hand, the reviews have been overwhelmingly positive. And we try not to read too much into it, because sometimes it's depressing seeing what other people think of you, versus how you think of yourself. But it seems like people are getting it, and the best thing, we played in France last month, right? And this French guy came up, and he was so brutally honest, and I love this. He goes, your band is not very original, but you're fucking awesome. And I was like, hey, man, you get it? I mean, we're, four guys, two guitars, bass, drums. We know what we're influenced by. We know who we are. And we love that about us. And for someone who's never seen us before to say something like that, it's like, yeah, it was kind of an offhanded, heartwarming compliment.
It's Europeans for you, Steve. That's what they do.
Oh, yeah. I love that. No, it's the most French thing I couldn't. But the response has been great. And, I think some of the stuff that we've seen happen that is really cool for us is like watching people on YouTube do, I just got this album, I'm gonna review it, I'm gonna listen to it for the first time, and watching how they interpret what we've done. And what even beyond that is watching people do, guitar covers, drum covers. I mean, someone even did a vocal cover of Loser. We're just like blown away, because whether or not we'll ever be as important like Primus or The Clash was to me, I mean, I don't know. Can you hope so? I don't know. I don't know what you can hope for, but the fact that we are able to aid people into continuing to play music, I think that's amazing. I think that's a win on so many levels. Even just be a musician, learn a song that you like. We're continuing the culture. I mean, it's that's my favorite thing that's happened with the reception of the album. And I think even just putting out a full-length album these days, it's kind of antithetical to what people in the music industry tell you. Everyone says just release a bunch of singles, don't do a full album. But the album that's the snapshot of who we were when we wrote those songs and how we recorded them. And the artwork is amazing, and it all fits together in a way that we're very proud of. And so, that no one thinks it's shit. Well, some people think it's shit, but I don't care what they think anyway. It's not
not to suck dick because you're here, but it's fucking great. Like, I always know if I think an album's good when the last track ends, I go, oh, because it's finished. And I did that when I was listening to it, so it got the Jamie seal of approval. I absolutely fucking love the record from start to end. It is fantastic.
Thank you. So, I mean, that's, it's so kind of you to say that. And, I know, like, I love albums in that same way. That's how I listen to music. I will, there are bands and there are albums that leave me being like, man, I wish there was more.
Yeah.
And that you take that into your personality a bit, right? Like the words, and when you listen to that album, what it reminds you of. Certain albums bring comfort, certain albums are reminiscent. If I'm like listening to Alice in Chains, I'm reminded of summertime in Pittsburgh, going to drive with my dad, being in the back seat with my headphones on, and I can relive that again. And so that sort of like auditory memory is so special. So to hear that you've connected with the album in that way, I hope that it becomes a snap point in your life that's really important to you, so that every time you listen to the album, you're reminded of something. I mean, if it's good, then great. If it's a painful time, like, hopefully it brings that sort of like comfort. Because I think that's one thing that music can do. It does do. It brings comfort to people who need it. And the more neurons you get to fire for, freaking out, you'll remember this time, and it will either be happiness or it'll be comfort, I think.
Absolutely. I'm like that. If I'm ever feeling like a bit blue and I feel like I need cheering up, I'll stick on a fucking great album that I really resonate with. And it just lifts the spirits right up. Like, yeah, come on.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I mean, after this, I'm gonna go put music on in the house. I have to. Like,
But when it comes to singles, because obviously you mentioned about how the Spotify generation now, it's like singles, just, that was great, what's next? That was great, what's next? Do you struggle with what to release as singles? Because obviously you dropped You Don't Care, Lose a Liar, and Freaking Out. Like, did you struggle to decide on what to drop, or was it just like, that'd be great to go out first, that'd be great to go out second?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a conversation with the label, I think in terms of what the role of a record label is in 2024 is different than in decades past. And one thing that I'll say about Spine Farm, and that I love about working with Spine Farm, and by the way, they're not paying me to say this. I've got a lot of music industry, but they have been kind of like a suggestive guiding hand in this. So I think they recognize that we as four guys have done the best that we could do DIY, and they are helping us in ways that, like, there's certain things that are obvious, right? Like the radio format, like intro, verse, chorus, double chorus, bridge, double chorus outro, right? Like that format it lends itself to radio. You get the same hook 3 times, right? So when it came to picking singles, obviously Freaking Out and Liar and Loser kind of follow those. And even I guess so does You Don't Care, but it's a bit more avant-garde isn't really the right word for it, but it's, it starts off with a guitar solo, and that's not something that you see very often in music these days. So, but picking the singles, the label had a plan for how they wanted to do it. And, our own plan may not have been too dissimilar. Like if you look at the other singles that we've released, it's been kind of like one main song, then one B-side. Kind of our first number of releases, the Burn Forever EP was kind of 3 songs and an acoustic song to get what we were doing out there into the world. And then we kind of had different plans for that initial batch of recordings, but we did end up doing them all as singles. So one main, more radio-friendly song, and then one single, still kind of in the same sort of verse-chorus format. So all that is to say, Spine Farm didn't come in with a heavy hand and tell us this is what we're doing. It was just like, this is what we're thinking, and we were like, yeah, we're right in line. So that whole process with them has been great. And I think in terms of what you expect from a label these days, it's definitely not an obsolete business entity. They do have the expertise and the time involved in the industry to be very relevant. It's just the way in which things work, as we talked about with like the streaming platforms, that affects the record labels too. So I think they're more of an ally to the artist at this point, which was a thing that was a trope for record labels, where it was like, the label's going to screw you. Like, our experience with Spine Farm thus far has been very, very positive, like all the way forward. So I hope that answers the question. I'm very long-winded. You can just
It's great. We love it. We love people that talk. That's the whole point. We do a whole show around this. So we love that, your head telling the stories. It's great. So I could sit here and listen to you for hours.
cool. I mean, I like it too. So
good.
So we mentioned earlier on, obviously, you're about to embark on the UK tour supporting Alkaline Trio, but you're also having an incredible festival season. You've got Louder Than Life coming up, Future Shock, Aftershock rather as well. But you have just played Download Festival here in the UK. Now, minus the weather, I heard Download was fucking phenomenal this year. How was it for you guys?
Well, apologies. We're just getting over COVID again, so I have a lingering cough. So
all good, man. I hope you're okay though.
Yeah. No, we're good. It's just anyway. Yeah. I mean, for Americans, Download's arguably the biggest UK festival that you don't have to come over to England to know about Download Fest. And I've just been wanting to play that festival for as long as I can imagine. I mean, Reading and Leeds being the other one, we did Reading and Leeds in 2018, which was phenomenal as well. But Download, just the type of people, because Reading and Leeds has kind of all mixes of people, and Download is like, this is a rock festival, and it's with people that like rock, and that's so cool. And yeah, I mean, the weather was a little bit shit. The mud was something else. But but yeah, the show was great. And I guess one of the things, you know, we went and did press, and we did a lot of press during that, which was something that we hadn't really considered, because we were like trying to map out the day, like, okay, we'll go see this band. And then, I mean, I've never been there, so I didn't realize how far everything is apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was massive. So, but we actually ended up having so many meetings and stuff. The only band we got to see was Pantera. Which, hey, I never got to see Pantera during their heyday. So being able to stand there with Luke was hanging out with his family, but me, Lee, and Jax just sat there watching Pantera, and we were like, this is really the only thing we're gonna get to see at Download Fest, but it's freaking Pantera. So like, you know, what an incredible day for us. Just, you know, two of my favorite things: play a show and go get to see a legendary band. I grew up with Pantera.
I was gonna say, if there's any band there you're going to pick to go watch, you picked a good one, to be fair.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. Like, and we watched in the crowd, you know, we didn't big time it on the side of the stage or anything. We're like, no, we're Pantera fans watching it happen. Like, fucking hell, like, that was awesome.
Amazing. So, obviously, I'll try that one again. A question I like to ask all of our musical guests: if people are listening to this and they're going, I like the cut of this guy's jib, I'm going to go check out this Lowlives band, they sound all right, yeah. What's a couple of songs in the back catalogue you're extra proud of that you think really sum up the Lowlives sound for you?
Yeah, I mean, on this album, we didn't. So my favorite song on this album was called Swan Dive, and I was hoping that it would have made the single cut. Who knows? Maybe Freaking Out will end up being like Moby's Play, where every song is a single. I don't see that happening. But Swan Dive on the new record would be where I would point you to start. Obviously, Burn Forever was the first song we ever released. It was the first song we kind of all collaborated, and it wasn't really finished without all of us. So that would be number 2. And then we have a song, as I checked the plays, it's our least popular song, unfortunately. It's called Hate, Greed, Liars, and Thieves. Come on, Messi. Sorry, my puppy's here. He wants to say hi.
Oh, we love an animal visit.
Oh, here he is.
Oh,
He's got a jumper on.
So, all right. Anyway, we have a song called Hate, Greed, Liars, and Thieves, and we've started playing it. We added it back to the set for those Atreyu shows. We didn't do it at Download, but it's probably my favorite song that we have as a band. And it's really, I think, relevant right now more than some of the other ones. So the chorus is like, nobody wants a war. And just for all the things that have been happening in the world, it just and the other guys would back me up if they were here to agree. We all felt like playing that song recently was the right move, and you know, it's so the chorus is like, nobody wants a war. The peace is kept with all their bombs. They're going to end us all with their greed and lies. It's all that's on their mind. And just for the general state of the world, it's, to me, that's the most important song that we have. Not necessarily it's not our biggest song, but that, you know, if you want to find out who we are, that's a great song. It's I think the B-side to Gravity as a previous release. Anyway, yeah.
So everyone, go check out all of those. Check out all of it, to be fair.
How was the European shows? Italy, France, Switzerland.
Italy, unfortunately, got canceled. I think everyone
Oh,
went crazy with the World Cup. But I mean, the guys in Atreyu are just the best dudes. I mean, we kind of known Brandon a bit. We played with his other band, and we were just like, it was just a few shows. And hopefully we'll do some more stuff with them. But the shows were great. France was off the hook, and Holland. I mean, playing in Holland is always awesome. And yeah, we just kind of like, wow, I wish this was 2 months longer.
can we just stay here? Is that all right if we just stay here?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, getting to play shows where, because people are amped up, right? Like people love Atreyu, and so getting to feed off of that energy where people don't really know who we are, and I think we do some things that are differently. You don't really see amps on stage in general, let alone big amps on stage very often anymore. And I think that's I'm not there is zero shade, because I totally understand why people choose not to do it. But for us, bringing in big amps and everything is still analog performance wise, I think is a thing that's kind of going the way of the buffalo. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like many people are wanting to deal with that. I've got friends in bands that are just like, I'm gonna use a Kemper and a Fractal or whatever until I die, because I just bring it in my suitcase, and I'm like, I'll be 80 years old bringing my Ampeg 8x10 pairs, because I don't want to give it up. I've had so many people be like, that's completely impractical, including my wife, who's like, we have a refrigerator, you don't need another one. And I'm like, yeah, but can I get like maybe 2 or 3 more? Because that's he said absolutely not, but we'll see. I'm gonna wear her down on it.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, just keep going. You'll be fine. You'll get there in the end.
But I think it's something like I mean, Luke plays with like absolutely massive cymbals. It's the Switzerland show. The sound guy, bless his heart, was like, "Can you guys all come down in volume?" We're like, "No, because we're not in ears. We've got, we're standing on this small stage, and Luke's drums are so massive and he hits them so loud. Like, I can't hear my amp if I turn down any lower." And so, we do that thing where you turn it down and you don't. Is that better? Yeah, it's good. Like, sound guys, I know this for a fact. They play this thing, and the bands also play it back to them, where he'll go, yeah, gonna need all the amps on stage to turn down a bit. And so we all go, eh. And then if we do actually turn down, we turn right back up as soon as the show starts. But then the monitor guys do the exact same thing, where you're like, can I get some more vocals from the wedge? And most of the time they'll go like this and just move their hands up without actually pressing the buttons. That good. And if you're not, if you're not super, like, if this isn't the thing you do all the time, you just be standing there like up, and then I think they play the waiting game to see if you give up asking for more. There you go. That's an industry secret where the band are told to turn down and then they turn back up, and the sound guy, you ask him for more on the monitors and they're like, don't touch it, and they're just like, you good? Like, oh yeah, that's much better.
Absolutely phenomenal. You mentioned Swan Dive earlier. That was one of my songs that I picked out that I thought was absolutely unbelievable, alongside Loser, You Don't Care, and Closer Than You Know. I absolutely loved as well.
Oh yeah.
Absolute all anthems, as far as I'm concerned. One more thing for myself. Music videos, Steve. Do you love them or hate them? This is in the making of them and the creation and that sort of stuff, not the finalized product. But do you love making them or do you absolutely hate it?
Oh, I love it. I mean, any day you get to go be creative is a good day. I mean, I think, I don't know. I'm going to weigh on this very carefully because I don't want something to come back and bite me later. But
we can always edit if you need us to.
No, I'm not going to say anything I truly regret, but okay. I think that any day that I get to be creative that doesn't have me, working in a bar or anything else, I mean, look, for a long time I was very ashamed to have a day job because there's a resounding thing amongst artists where if you're an artist, you should only be an artist, right? Like no one wants that side of things. But the reality is all of the big artists that I know personally all have either invested in something where they're a silent but controlling person, or they have their own companies, or like, Jimmy Eat World, those guys own a restaurant. I mean, everyone has side hustles these days, and that's not uncommon. So, I know that there's someone out there who gets to only focus on music for their life, and God bless them. They've done something right somewhere. But for the majority of people, I mean, I'm friends with tons of dudes in bands, and everyone is trying to figure out the same thing. How do I not go crazy having a real day job, but also like afford to float the band to go do a European tour? Like, you have to have an income source. Yeah. And so the part that I may regret at some point is if that becomes my life, I could see, maybe, I hope not, but I hope that I never get tired of being creative. I just think that at this time, it's so hard to get to be creative. You have to work so hard. I mean, maybe if you come from wealth and your day job is hanging out, having to go shoot a music video might be like droll or like, but for me, I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to go not work in a bar and go be around creative people who are wanting to, do a good job for our band. And like, I mean, come on, like,
yeah,
I love that shit. So
yeah, totally understand it.
How could you be upset? I mean, I get it. Like being tired on tour, and like I do think that there is like a difference in artist sizes, right? So if your band is a full-time thing, meaning that you are doing like 40 hours per week or whatever, only dedicated to that, and like no one wants to see Billy Joel play after he's slept, on someone's floor, right? Like, you don't want to like, right, you don't want to pay $100 to go see Billy Joel play and he's tired and lethargic and he's like, I just drove 8 hours and I slept on someone's floor. I mean, that's kind of the reality of punk rock anyway. I mean, I slept in a Walmart parking lot many times on tour. We're like, we're so broke, we can't afford a hotel room. We're in a brand new region. We don't know anyone here to stay with. We've got to go from like, South Carolina to Miami, and we have to be there tomorrow at 4. The only choice is to drive through the night, but your driver's so tired. Walmart parking lot it is. And, you get what you get. But you have that fire and but you don't want the same thing from going to see the Foo Fighters, right? Or like, imagine paying $1,000 for Taylor Swift tickets and her just being like, guys, I just didn't really sleep very well, so we're gonna cut the set short tonight. Like, you can't. It's just a different the expectation artist wise changes once you get beyond a certain level.
It's weird. I can't explain why that makes sense, but it makes total sense. Because like at the same time, you're like, I don't want a punk band to sleep in their car in a car park, but at the same time, I kind of do. It adds to it. I don't know why. It just does.
I mean, what's this is a fun fact. Sleeping in Walmart parking lots with like in Florida during like monsoons is some of the best sleep I've ever had in my life. I know it doesn't make any sense, but just so I have like a white noise app on my phone, and that's what I sleep to is rain on the car roof. Because it's like this weird comforting thing from pulling over at Walmart parking lots and sleeping, just being absolutely exhausted and overperforming, not eating well, and just that whole punk rock element of whatever, the show's going to happen. As long as we can get there, the show's going to happen.
I love it. I'm right there with you. I have a white noise app too, so I totally get it. But I love the idea of the monsoon being like you're just in a fucking tidal wave or in the sea, just like the car just bobs on the river. It's like, this is lovely. This is rocking me to sleep. This.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a safe place.
Phenomenal. One last question from myself. I know I said that before, but I actually have another one. When you first started this journey, with your dad being a jazz musician, getting into music since you knew exactly what it was, did you ever think this is where you'd be today?
I mean, kind of. I to some extent, there's an element of luck involved. But I never really take luck as a part of the equation,
Yeah.
You surround yourself with driven people who want to be better and are talented. Take pride in your recording, and I mean, it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel how to do it. There are ways to do it that it's, I think, the other elements of it, finding people that are willing to go out on a limb and help you when they don't really need to. You can attract those people in your life, but also being in the industry, you will find people that share your beliefs and share your values. And so I've always taken the approach of, I'm going to do this. This is the goal. Like, hard stop. What's the goal? To make more music. What do I need to get there? I need money, and I need it to be successful enough that I get to make music again. It's really like a junkie sort of thing. So did I think that I would end up here? I always hoped that I would. I've been in so many bands at this point. I mean, kind of like I mentioned earlier, I did the hired gun for things. And now Lowlives being like the 10th band that has been with a label doing tours. You know, I never get tired of it. So, you know, for this to be a band that I'm a member of and not a hired gun for, that was the stated goal from all of us when we decided to push this thing further. I mean, Lee and Luke, they both get offers all the time to go fill in for someone on vocals or drums or guitar or whatever. They could easily go back to being hired guns. So they've chosen to do the hard part, which is really nurture what we've built together. And so I think like that's the, you know, the goal is always to play more music. Luckily, we're at a point where we have been doing this long enough that people are caring, and we get to go do more music, and we get to go on tour with Alkaline Trio, and we get to do Aftershock and Louder Than Life. I mean, any of those things they're all individual dreams come true, right? So, you know, there is an element of people believing in us that is out of your control, but as long as you believe in yourself enough to at least see what it takes, because unfortunately it's like anything else, you know, like how many people are like, I want to have a podcast someday, and you're like, hey, okay, well, you got to really get your shit together. You have to be good at interviewing people. You have to have, you know, what your show is going to be about. You got to have the physical equipment. Like nothing is just easy. Like it all takes work and effort, and you guys you're great at what you do.
Oh,
So, I mean, you know, like,
can't.
but you know what I mean? Like it doesn't just,
yeah.
like some people think that things just happen. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, especially for me living in Hollywood for as long as I did, I got to see how many people show up to Hollywood expecting it to just happen. And then when it's like, okay, you know, if you want to be an actor, like, gotta have headshots, gotta, you know, volunteer on set for things. Like you don't, I mean, I guess sometimes it does happen where someone just has a viral moment, whether that's like on the internet or real life, or like Harrison Ford just happened to be there. Or like I just read this thing about Johnny Depp getting Nightmare Before Elm Street, was bored, went to an open casting, and now we have Johnny Depp, right?
Excellent.
Like,
yeah,
you know, not to say that he didn't work for what he did, he absolutely did, but like that doesn't happen that often. But if you want to do things, it's a very systematic, like, I'm going to practice, I will take lessons, or I will figure it out, then I will surround myself with quality musicians, or I will go to shows and try and meet people who are involved in the music the same way that I want to be involved. Like, it's not, there are steps that you can move forward to at least influence your outcome. And I have always done that. And I think that, did I expect to wind up here? Like, kind of, yeah. I mean, no one knows the end journey, right? But like, I've always known that I wanted to continue doing this, and I have continued doing it, and I will continue doing it.
beautiful. I don't think I could have said that any better, to be honest. That was absolutely beautiful, word for word. That was stunning.
Thank you.
Steve,
It's my inspiration. He's right here.
Beautiful little pup.
Steve, thank you so much for taking that time to talk to us today. It really means the absolute world.
Like I said, any day that I don't have to be behind a bar or whatever else I do in my, you know, Clark Kent job, you know, thank you for caring enough about Lowlives and caring enough about the album that we put out. I mean, that's, you know, going back to what you said, how's the response been? You guys want to talk to me for 90 minutes about my thoughts? That's amazing. It's, you know, again, just all of the gratitude and appreciation.
No, not at all, man. But seriously, this has been phenomenal. Like, I've absolutely loved it. Hearing all your thoughts and feelings on things and getting to know you better and getting to know Low Lives better, vicariously through you, So, yeah. And, like, but all seriously, though, the album is, like Jamie said, is fucking stunning from start to finish. So, and I've seen a few of my friends that I've seen on Instagram have been posting about it as well when it came out, saying, you need to fucking listen to this band because they're unbelievable. So when we were offered the chance to talk to you, I was like, yes, please, because they're unbelievable.
Thank you. And it's nice to have people. We had this conversation in the band where we were like, are we a niche sort of thing? Like, we're kind of like feeling like we're a bit niche now. Like, what I mentioned about showing up with real amps and recreating the things, not like, because nowadays you can roll in and you can sample your entire tone and everything from the album, and you can have that exact tone. Like, if you use some vintage Marshall to get that tone, you don't have to bring the vintage Marshall with you. Or like, you don't even need to have a speaker on stage in order to produce sound for an audience, right? And so we're kind of just like, man, how long until sound guys don't know how to mix a live band? Where they're so used to things being either pre-recorded or just like, is your Kemper hooked up to the mic or to the XLR? Like, yeah, okay, so then we've got a show. And we're like, no, we're going to use the vintage Marshalls, and we're gonna load in an Ampeg 8x10 up 4 flights of stairs, because fuck it, this is like, like, this is who we are. And so to hear people into like, our album is real tones, like everything's real on it, and there's a warmth to that like, again, I'm not throwing shade on anyone who uses digital stuff. It is a tool that you can use, and good on you for playing music. We're choosing to do a different thing, and that thing is weirdly the thing that's been done the most in history. We're just now back, and but it's nice to hear that people are into the record. And I don't think we use any auto-tune. Lee, Luke, and Jax are just really fantastic singers, and Lee is like a one-take wonder when it comes to tracking, and it's the real thing. So you guys appreciating it just reinforces that. So that's really nice.
Absolutely. Steve, before we let you get out of here, any plugs, social medias, websites? Where can we send people to check you guys out?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably most active on our Instagram. So we do try and respond to everyone. But wearelowlives.com is our website. And we're not sitting in an ivory tower. I mean, it might take a minute because we all are 4 guys with real lives, but we're about it. And we love to see people reaching out to us and come say hello at a show. We've got our tour dates up, and then wherever you want to stream, we've got content out there. We've on our YouTube, we've got music videos. We did a really cool 3-part story, sort of like continuous through 3 singles. We shot that with this guy Cyrus, who is he plays young Derek Zoolander in the second Zoolander, so he's the star of that. So, there's a bunch of cool stuff. I mean, we're happy to continue doing it as long as people will have it. And then if you're not having it, we're still going to do it anyway because it's for us. So
I love it so much.
Steve, my friend, this has been unbelievable. Thank you so much. I wish you every success with the record going forward, and I hope the Alkaline Trio tour is fucking unreal over here.
Yeah.
It'd be a pleasure to have you back.
Oh, hell yeah. I would love to come back anytime. And if you want to talk about whatever, I will talk until Zoom cuts us off.
Yeah. Which I don't think is ever. So probably the Guinness World Record for the longest podcast ever recorded.
Threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. Steve, man, thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate it massively, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your day, my friend. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you as well. Thanks so much.
See you
See you later,
later.
man. Take it easy.
Be well.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.